You have a responsibility to walk into that appointment and say, I'm here today to talk to you about insomnia. As you know, I'm 57 years old. My last period was in 2016. I've been investing in my own health education recently, and I understand that if I don't start prioritizing my sleep, it is going to continue to impact how I show up at work, the days that I'm missing of work, and it's impacting my relationships at home. I know there are approved treatments for insomnia, and I am here today to invite you to work with me to find the solution that's best for me.
Hello, SoulNet friends.
Welcome, SoulNet listeners.
Hello, SoulNet friends. SoulNet is so excited and thankful to invite Shirley Weir as our guest today. Shirley is the founder of Menopause Chicks, an online global community that was started in Port Moody, Canada. Shirley is a women's health advocate, author, podcaster, and educator who helps women navigate perimenopause to postmenopause with confidence and ease. Shirley's mission is to ensure everyone understands how our hormones work when cycles are regular, so we can be in the best position to make health decisions for ourselves when our cycles are no longer regular.
Great to meet you, Shirley, and love all the work that you are doing and really excited for today's conversation.
Thank you. I started this journey 12 years ago. Menopause Chicks was born, and it was pretty quiet 12 years ago. So it's really exciting to be here with you and to have the conversation fully cracked open.
Just out of curiosity, Shirley, and was it your own journey that led you to create our society? I find often, our own healing journeys often lead us to a new purpose or a new path in life.
Yes, and I realized the other day that I have actually 3 ways to answer that question. So generally, I go to, yes, it was my own experience. When I was in my early 40s, I started experiencing things that I knew nothing about, but also that was coupled with the fact that my life was so full. I knew that I couldn't afford for anything to go down. Like, I was self-employed. I had 2 small children under the age of 10. My aging mother was living with us, showing signs of cognitive decline. And I was waking up every morning at 3 a.m., telling myself I was gifted and working for 4 hours before my kids would wake up, and just like doing that over and over again. And so then I was like, well, no, it can't possibly be anything to do with me. I'll just go to my doctor and I'll why don't I blame perimenopause? Let's find out about that. So that was like the initial early days. But backing up even further, earlier than that was my sister is 10 years older than I am. She is a childhood cancer survivor. And she's a healthy 68-year-old today, but she reached menopause at age 36. And that's probably because she had radiation treatments that destroyed a lot of her egg follicles, we assume. So when she was 36, I was 26. I really didn't care, but I did care because she's my only sibling, and she really demonstrated for me what it meant to be your own best health advocate. It was the early 90s. She didn't have Google, even though that's really not a helpful tool, as we all know. But her doctor even said, I don't know anything. Go learn what you need to do, but you do have to invest in your future health. And I was like, wow, right? And then the third way to answer that question is I'm a marketer. And communications expert. That's my background. And so when I did go looking for online information and online communities, there were none. And so that's how I decided to create Menopause Chicks.
Amazing.
It almost feels like the doors to access are being opened up now to women's ability to self-educate, and the conversations that they have with their practitioners can be more partnerships now versus like authority figure towards the patient. And even in my own experience with my GP, I've shared some information with her where she's like, oh, I didn't know about that. I'll look into that. And she's quite a bit younger than me. So understandably, she doesn't have any lived experience of it, but just the willingness to have the conversations. And quite a few of my client roster that don't have access to extended benefits, for example, have incredible access to information that is so empowering that I'm curious how you've noticed what's shifted in the conversations, because women know more now.
And did you notice how quickly our conversation this morning went to like a medical situation, which is very, very common. But did anybody take their child to the doctor to learn about puberty? No. We did not. I did not take my children to the doctor to say, can you please teach my son how a baby is made and how not to make a baby? No, that was my responsibility as the parent. And so if we can translate that analogy to women's midlife health, or even to like before we get there to our reproductive years, if you maybe are having challenges with fertility, that's a window of opportunity to learn about ovulation and about hormone health and how that's impacted. And then if that's not your experience or situation, you will definitely need to have that understanding when you reach midlife.
And that's some of the advocacy, right, that you're doing, and other doctors and wellness and lots of people are jumping into this conversation, advocating for change in education.
Yes.
So because there are a lot of physicians that were not educated in women's health. And if they were, it was like one unit.
Exactly.
One unit for 1 month.
If even.
And so we're hoping to just be part of that conversation in a tiny, tiny way. Education. Is that really a big part of it?
Yeah, it's totally a big part of it. So almost every single day, I quote a study that was done here in British Columbia about 5 years ago called inherwords.ca.
Oh.
And it was produced by BC Women's Health Foundation with support from Pacific Blue Cross. And the inherwords.ca study screamed at me because there's a subsection in there that addresses women in my age demographic. And 54% of us leave our health appointments feeling dismissed or disappointed. That number is higher for Indigenous women, and it's higher for women of color. And the top two reasons for the health appointments in the first place were related to menstruation or menopause.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you let that digest, the very first place that most people go to when I'm talking about those statistics is, well, we just need to educate more doctors. Doctors need more education. We just need to change the curriculum at medical school. And I am here to tell you and your listeners that I might not be alive by the time curriculums are changed at medical school.
Yeah.
It's not an area that I have direct influence over. And it is very difficult to do for so many reasons. Yes, there's a need. Yes, I'm an optimist, so I'll still, push and support all the people who are doing that. But menopause is not an ailment or a disease or a condition. It's a phase of life. There is approved treatments. So your doctor needs to know about the treatments, but you're not going to go to an 8-minute appointment and get education about how your body works. You're going to go already having that education, prepared to have an informed conversation in 8 minutes that will move you closer to feeling amazing, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I talk about those people that say just need to educate more doctors, I get it. I get where they're coming from, but it pushes the problem off of your plate. And my job is to influence consumers. My job is to say, what can we do about those statistics? And so I have a pet project going on right now called Speak Menopause, or I Speak Menopause. And I want everyone to show up at their appointments with a script. And that can be adapted to suit your personality, to suit the situation, but it changes the health outcome from, and I'll give you like an extreme example. Forgive me if this sounds like you. But if I show up at my doctor's appointment and I love my doctor, she's amazing. She delivered both of my babies. We have a really long established relationship. That sounds privileged. And I say, oh, no, my kids, they're in their 20s now. Can you believe it? Yeah, no, they grow up so fast. How are your kids? What are they doing now? Oh my gosh, time just flies, doesn't it? Boom. We are 5 minutes into an 8-minute appointment.
Oh, such a good reminder.
Then she says, so what can I do for you today? And I'm like, I don't know. I used to be a good sleeper, but I'm not sleeping the way I used to. You are in a room sitting across from a scientist who took an oath to support your health. You have a responsibility to walk into that appointment and say, I'm here today to talk to you about insomnia. As you know, I'm 57 years old. My last period was in 2016. I've been investing in my own health education recently, and I understand that if I don't start prioritizing my sleep, it is going to continue to impact how I show up at work, the days that I'm missing of work, and it's impacting my relationships at home. I know there are approved treatments for insomnia, and I am here today to invite you to work with me to find the solution that's best for me.
Wow. What an empowering way of reframing that whole thing, Shirley. Amazing.
That's exactly what women need to be doing. They need to be taking ownership and responsibility and walking in feeling empowered, encouraged. And that's also how you know, like in any relationship, whether it's a patient to physician or a friend to a friend or a partner to a partner, that's how you know you are in a relationship that is working for you, where you are being heard, where you're being understood, right? You have to have that autonomy.
I think what you're saying is respect. So I go into that appointment. Yes, I love this person. I care about her kids. Sure, time for that. But I already know what she has in her toolkit. And mind reading is not one of her skill sets.
Yeah, good point.
Right? Unless we're walking in with a sandwich board that says, I wake up too early 3 or more times a week, for example, then she cannot read my mind. And so as a scientist, we have to give the facts and understand what she has in her toolkit to support me.
What frustrates you the most in perimenopause and menopause education? What are you finding?
Language.
Okay.
I'm a word nerd and I get really frustrated by language. If I can see that the language is impeding access, understanding, or interpretation, probably the most common is menopause symptoms in the same sentence. So I get misquoted on this quite a bit, actually, because people think that I don't say symptoms. And it's true that menopause is not a disease, an ailment, or a condition. So therefore, it can't really have symptoms. But what's really frustrating me is that every disruptive or adverse health experience that a woman might experience can often get tossed into a bucket. It's labeled menopause. She's not sleeping. She's losing hair. She can't lose weight. She blah, 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 blah. And it gets thrown into a bucket labeled menopause, stays on the back burner, right? Doesn't get addressed appropriately. And that's not true. And that's why I do teach this a lot, is that once we understand how our hormones work, then we can say things like, I'm experiencing symptoms of progesterone decline.
Right.
Progesterone's the hormone that's responsible for my mood, my sleep, and my bleeding.
Yes.
Periods were never disruptive before. Now I'm experiencing extended or heavy bleeding. That's a symptom of progesterone decline. And so that kind of gets down to the nitty, and it takes a lot more words to say, but it's really important.
But it's what you say about menopause speak. Like it's a language that empowers us.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with us if we understand the building blocks that if they're not aligned in a certain way, we'll experience certain things. But it's the difference between empowerment and, being in a room with no light.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You shared in your menopause masterclass, which I took, by the way, and amazing. I can't recommend it enough. We'll add it in our taglines for the show. It's such an incredible resource that you would love to see the term vasomotor symptoms become a part of popular culture. Share with us about that.
Sure. So vasomotor symptoms is the correct term for what we probably know as hot flashes and night sweats. Vasomotor means that our blood vessels are constricting or dilating. The root cause when a woman experiences vasomotor symptoms in midlife is more often than not fluctuating or declining hormones. But men and women experience vasomotor symptoms. The difference is that our society and culture, when a man experiences vasomotor symptoms, he gets medical attention. When a woman experiences vasomotor symptoms, she's most often instructed to get a fan on her desk, step into a walk-in freezer, like patronize, patronize, patronize. And so I believe that one of the things that we can do is to make sure that we be hyper diligent around the words that we choose to describe our experiences.
I'm just going to be honest. I never heard that term before.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm going to take your menopause masterclass, number one. Number two, why are we only hearing it now?
Oh,
Like people like me, I feel like I'm not, I feel informed.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've never heard that term.
well, there's a phrase, and this is the first thing that came to mind. The first time we hear about something is the first time we hear about something. We can spend a lot of time asking why and looking in the rearview mirror, but I don't have a lot of energy for that. So it's like from this moment forward, you are probably going to think of this conversation every time someone says hot flash.
Vasomotor.
You're going to be like, that's a vasomotor symptom. And you're going to think about your blood vessels.
Vasomotor. I'm going to be thinking about this, Shirley. Like this is the language that you've just given us.
The temperature of the room, the temperature outside, the season we're in, it has zero to do with that. It has to do with our hormones fluctuating and declining. And so and maybe you picked this up in the masterclass. I can't remember if I used it in the last one, but think of vasomotor symptoms as a check engine light on your car.
Yes.
So you're driving down the road, the check engine light pops on. What do? You pull over to the side of the road, you lift the hood, you try to find and treat the root cause. Vasomotor symptoms are a gift to women because if we treat them like a check engine light, we then have the opportunity to lift the hood, find and treat the root cause, which is hormone decline or fluctuation. When we treat that root cause, we are not only eliminating the vasomotor symptoms, we're investing in our bones, we're investing in our genitourinary health. Those are the three things that hormone therapy is approved for, by the way. And then, if we understand what hormones roles and responsibilities are when we are cycling regular, we have this opportunity to also kind of translate those benefits too. So hormone therapy can also have side benefits such as supporting our sleep or even regulating bleeding during those perimenopause years.
I mean, I also want to just say that having the information, having the right language, having the tools that you are providing, Shirley, the community that you are building and, that you have, I also want to just say that will, in and of itself, will likely also help women to feel less crazy at this time in their life.
I hope so. We have enough on our plates. We need to kind of get those reminders that we're not alone. Yeah. And we also need to be reminded that we are smart and savvy. And once we have the information, we can get through anything.
It's so true, this stage of life.
I'd love to ask you, Shirley, because I often think, I live a life of privilege too. I can pay for my naturopath. I can see some acupuncture. I can get things that, help support me and pay for them. But I really often think about the demographics of women out there that do not have access. So, and I know you're really advocating in all areas of our community for, support for every woman out there. What can we offer to some of our listeners that, maybe they have a GP or they go to a clinic and they get a little bit of care there. Maybe they don't have other access points. How can we help them educate themselves so they can have better conversations and feel better about this midlife journey as well?
Thank you for that question. That's incredible. So if we are fortunate enough to be attached to a family doctor, we probably all need the reminder that navigating your menopause journey can be handled by that physician. It might take more work once you understand what they, the hour of education they may have had in medical school, but we can bring it closer together with more information, education, and the script tips that we talked about. If you're not attached to a family physician, you can still do that possibly with an MD at a walk-in clinic. In Canada and British Columbia, where we live, we've seen more online health platforms. So Felix.ca is a platform that was just launching their menopause informed care this year. So we have access to that in a lot of provinces in Canada. And there are more coming to the table too. So we do have to get more awareness of these services, because I still worry that there are individuals who be like, I can't find anything, right? And so more conversations like this are really, really helpful, and just giving individuals that glimmer of there's something out there for you. I'm like a dog with a bone. Come to me and we'll figure something out. Have we exhausted all the options? I don't think so.
We're so grateful for that.
I went to the screening of The M Factor a couple of weeks ago. Megan and I went, and I believe Eilina is going soon. I love the fact that the film is out there in general. It's amazing that we're getting, more and more exposure. But one of the things that was in the commentary takeaway was that Women's Hospital in Vancouver here has now opened a heart clinic specifically for heart health in women's, because we know that we go to the doctor, traditional hospitals will dismiss our symptoms of heart attack and stroke because they are very different than how a man would present. So this clinic has been created to help advocate for women's health and the differences that are going on, so we don't get dismissed. So I just wanted to share that, because I was so happy that our community is doing, more.
Absolutely. Every 22 minutes in Canada, a woman dies of heart disease or stroke, and most of those could be prevented.
This, to your point, Shirley, a lot of women, including us, we had no idea about this clinic. There is very little awareness. It's a heart clinic. It's run by nurse practitioners. You don't need a doctor referral.
Right.
You can walk in.
Yeah.
You can literally walk in.
It's amazing.
I think women, again, investigating on their own, taking that agency to look and see what's available in your city. Try to find these places. I hope they're going to be popping up more and more and more for women in every community.
Exactly. And you know what? Before we even get to that, I'll be honest with you and your audience. When I started the Menopause Chicks journey, I had no idea that we would be sitting here talking about heart health. I hadn't connected the dots.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was going to be talking about vulva and vaginal and genitourinary health, because I hadn't connected the dots. When I was in perimenopause, the most profound things for me were sleep, mood, brain fog, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought that, that's all it's about. I'll just write a blog and all will be well. And so I just want to bring that up, because you could have listeners at different ages and stages who are like, I don't get the connection to heart health, right?
Totally.
And if we can connect those dots in any and every conversation. And then another one that's so important, but it's often difficult for me to bring up, is bone health.
Yes.
1 in 3 of us will develop osteoporosis or fall and break a bone due to osteoporosis. And hormone therapy is one of the approved first-line recommendations for how we can prevent the bone loss that we all experience. 20%, we lose 20% of our bone mass in the first 5 years of postmenopause. Did I know I was going to be talking about bone health? And when you meet someone who's in perimenopause, who's not sleeping and has been bleeding for 45 days, the very last thing she wants to hear from Shirley Weir is, and you got to prioritize your bone health, right? So this is almost, it's a linear process sometimes, even though it's very non-linear, but we can only take in the amount of information that we can take in at any given time.
Well, and I feel like that's such an important reminder to all of us as women that this particular time period of the amount of health conditions, whether they are autoimmune, whether they are heart related, whether they are cancer related, all of these changes in the hormonal systems are putting us at greater risk through this transitional time.
And there's a lot of resources that have been shared today. And are they kind of captured in your free download that you have on your website, in your book?
You can go to menopause-chicks.com. You can get a free copy of my book. You can sign up for the masterclass. If you watch the masterclass, you automatically get a session called the Vagina Dialogues. And what I do in the Vagina Dialogues is I explain why we experience vulva and vaginal dryness, why all of us will. You can't just cross your fingers and hope that you don't. You will if you get to a certain age, and reoccurring UTIs. And then I outline all the ways to prevent and all the ways to treat.
Amazing.
I'm a big prevention. If I can keep a grape, I will. But if your grape turns into a raisin, you still need to know that there are ways to bring it back.
You can still lubricate the raisin.
Yeah.
Moisturize.
Turn it back into a grape.
Yeah, that's
really exciting. It's an exciting science experiment.
Amazing. So the best thing is probably for listeners to just join the community.
Yeah, you can join menopausecommunity.com or go to menopausechicks.com. There's 58,000 members there. The beautiful part about the community is that you can ask your question. You can take the class or read the book and then seek clarification, because often what we're doing, like today, it might ignite more curiosity, right? It's like, oh, I learned this, but now I have questions about, A, B, and C on top of that. And the third thing that I think it really does for members, and I get this feedback all the time, is, oh, I never thought of that before. So we can learn through others' experiences and their questions.
Absolutely.
Do you have a poem or words of wisdom or favorite quote you'd like to share?
I have many. I make everybody write these 5 words on a Post-it note, which is, I deserve to feel amazing. Or here's my Post-it note, but you need to put this somewhere where you're going to see it and where the people that you live with are going to see it.
Yes.
So in front of the refrigerator, that's my go-to. I love the Brene Brown quote where she talks about, in order to be curious about something, you have to know a little bit about it. And I'd never thought about curiosity that way before. I had thought, I'd always kind of grown up with this notion that curiosity was this spark that came out of nowhere. And it actually grows once we decide that we're going to learn something about it.
We love curiosity here too. We've done episodes on it. It's,
Okay, cool.
we love curiosity.
Yes, we do.
And the third thing I would say, it's a quote from my first book, actually, but I was reminded about it during this conversation that we're having today. And that is, many of us will say that the system is too big to change. And I say we are the system.
Yes.
We are the system.
We are the system.
We are the system.
We start by changing it here, Shirley, with you.
Yes! On the SoulNet podcast.
Exactly. And all the other beautiful work you're doing out there.
Thank you, SoulNet listeners, and thanks to Shirley Weir for being with us today. What an amazing resource and advocate and support sister for all of us. Shirley can be reached through her community, menopause-chicks.com, and we will list all of the great resources she mentioned in the episode in our episode description. And coming up on SoulNet Podcast, we will be having a hormonal health naturopath come and spend some time with us and answer some questions. So please follow our podcast so you don't miss an episode. And we will continue booking some of these amazing guests for you and for us to stay inspired on our journey. Until next time, SoulNet. Please note that the information we share in our episodes is not medical advice. If there's anything that piques your interest and curiosity, please follow up with your healthcare provider. Thanks for listening.